Okay. So, hi, it's Azrael Lawless. Yeah. And that over there is Callie Chase. And I feel dumber than a wheel of cheese. I just finished interviewing Callie and it wasn't recording. So so Callie has agreed so kindly to do this again. Bless her heart. We're going to go ahead and pretend like we never talked, even though we got through the entire interview before we realized it wasn't recording. This brand new paid for account that I got, especially because I was going to be interviewing Callie Chase, requires a two-step process to start the recording. And I was not aware of that. And I hit the record button and nothing happened. First time since early February. So now you know. All right. Okay. I've confessed it. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to pretend that that never happened. Okay. That I never did. Yeah. Okay. So here goes. Here goes. Are you ready? Are you ready? Here goes. Hi, I'm Azrael Lawless. And once again, you've fallen straight into Vella. And you're going to hear an interview between me and Callie Chase. And it's going to be great. And she is such a good sport for doing this again. So that's the last I'm going to mention that. Callie, how are you doing today, honey?
I'm great. I'm great. You are so not a wheel of cheese. I love you. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. This is so fun.
Oh, yeah, that makes me feel so much better. Not. Anyway, you got to be mean to me or something, you know, maybe like a rock star, throw a book, something, kick the trash can over or something in your office. That'd be good. Callie, as most of you probably already know, because you've seen it up on the first page so long, is the author of Bug, a zombie. Would you call this an epic undead, an undead epic? What would we call this? Because it's not just a zombie story. You can't call Bug just a zombie story. First of all, Bug is somebody's name.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I thought this was going to be like a sci-fi about giant bugs, but it's not. This is someone's name, and she happens to be the MC. So, yeah, and I am very much enjoying it. So, Callie, when did you get started writing? When did you begin writing?
I started writing seriously, obviously as an adult, but I had my first sort of toe in the water of writing anything when I was really young. I think a lot of us write, as kids and tell stories and things. But my mom was a writer. She was sort of self-taught, self-made. And I didn't know this at the time, but I was about 7 and wrote my first little story on a piece of paper for school using the spelling words, And that story, I brought it home and it made my mom cry. And we were in such a tough time in our family. My younger brother had just been born and he was a preemie, and there was all this hard stuff. And so when my mom cried when I wrote that story, it just, it kind of opened up something in me where I was like, this is a way to connect with people. And I just considered myself like a lover of storytelling, I think probably from that point. Not that I wrote anything brilliant or genius, at the age of 7, it was all spelling words, but it showed me it could, you could do it. And then right there, my mom was doing it at the same time. She was writing and querying and submitting stuff. So I would, starting back at, a young age, but then I didn't really write anything that was even remotely publishable until decades. Some would argue it still hasn't happened, but decades later, I've really started seriously writing as an adult.
It's hard enough to be a writer now. Back when your mom was doing this, when you brought your story home and it made her cry, it was a whole different ball game back then. It was just like going to your mailbox every day and knowing you were going to get, a letter that you opened up and it said you suck. And so you had to face that, and you didn't know what was going on in between. You submitted complete works, things like that. So you don't know, man, you might have really inspired your mom by bringing her that story. And it might have inspired her to go on, because I do know that she was a romance writer. Now, how do I know this? Oh, it's just because I'm the most well-researched interviewer in the world. I just make sure that I interview you entirely off camera while you think that you're being recorded, and then impose upon you to do it all again so that I can sound smarter. So, yes. So your mom became a successful, I call it successful, anytime you got somebody else to publish your stuff, romance writer, right? And she wrote for Harlequin, right?
Yes. Yep. Harlequin and Silhouette in the day before they were part of Harlequin. She published, I think, her first book in the 80s, 86, 87, maybe.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so you grew up basically immersed in writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then little Callie, she gets older and she's on going to school, and she's getting through high school, and then so she studies.
Yep. I studied English in college, and then I got an MFA in creative writing in grad school. And the thing that was super cool about grad school, because it was an MFA in creative writing, but I also got to teach and work on a literary journal. So that's when I really started to learn, how to teach writing, and also acquisitions a little bit, obviously in that kind of bubble of grad school, but I loved it. I loved it. I didn't learn as much about, and this is not to slam my program or anything. I think this is just like the practical reality of being a writer. Like, nobody needs an MFA. I wanted one because I really wanted to teach, and I knew that was going to be really important to be teaching at the college level. But you really learn, I think, to write by doing it. And like, my mom never went to college. She DIY'd the whole thing, and she figured it out for herself. And I kind of think I followed the same path, even though I also happen to have some degrees too.
Well, I want you to also tell everybody what she used to do, like go and buy 3 copies of somebody's novel. This is so fascinating. So
yeah, so my mom would buy multiple copies of the same book, of like, she loved Nora Roberts, whether it was romance or more suspense, historical, and she would dissect them, like literally tab the books, tear them to pieces, like dog-earing the corners, and then she would outline and make notes on a yellow legal pad. And I don't know, because a lot of that stuff I don't have. Some of it I did inherit. My mom has passed, so I do have some of her old files and things. But she did like vision boards. She cut out the cover of a tremendously, probably like a Harlequin from the 70s, and put it on a board and just like penciled her name over the top. So all that stuff. But I saw her teach herself how to write really from reading, which is the best, I think, teacher that you can find, or the books that you want to publish. Read books that are just like what you want to be publishing. So that was the process when I was growing up that I saw happening. And I didn't really, I would not say my, education made me a successful writer at that time, or in any way. I wouldn't say I'm a successful writer now, but just figuring out how to do it and having the confidence in doing that didn't come till much later, when I was actually working in publishing and then learning how to write, being a staff writer and ghostwriter and things like that. But yeah, I definitely had the role model close by, which really helped a lot to see that it was a job people could do. Like, that was my mom's job when I was growing up.
wow, that's fantastic. That's a first. That's a first here on the interviews, is the child of a published writer like that. And kudos to your mom. Sorry you lost her.
Thank you.
Sound like a great example. I'm a big believer in self-training. I think schools, they expose you to a variety of things. I think education exposes you to a variety of things. But I think we can agree that practical experience doing the job, like you were saying, when you got into editing and you were reading all of these different stories, and you were seeing how people attempted it, and you were seeing what worked, what didn't work,
Yeah.
but you were working as an editor at the time. So this is gumshoe experience. This is actually getting on the ground and putting your feet to it. So yeah, that's where you learn. And I think that's probably true of anything, like I know it's true. Like I worked in the legal field for 3 decades. No, it was only 10 years. No, it's a little more than 3 decades. And I can't tell you how, boy, lawyers coming out of school, oh, they don't know anything. And so, yeah, they're totally in diapers and totally have to be babied and changed until they learn the ropes.
Yeah.
So there'd be no reason to expect writing to be any different when you, go get a literary education, as it were.
Exactly.
You're going to have to hit the keys.
Exactly. And that was a big thing too. Like when I was in grad school, it was very competitive and there were people with publications and getting contracts and things really quickly after school. And I think the best part about writing and being a writer now is there's so many ways to be successful and to make money doing what you love and different ways to do it right, that there's not that one size fits all of like, we all have to do this and do it this way. That my mom, I think, kind of came up with much more of that was much more the structure for her. For us now, we just have so many ways to be successful.
Oh, right. Absolutely. And you have explored those. You've actually written and gotten your chops without having to stick your name on it.
Yeah.
Was done through, go ahead and, tell us.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was editing for a really long time, but obviously still really wanted to be a writer and do some writing. So I applied to be a staff writer at Radish. So a lot of writers know Radish because they bring their work to Radish, but Radish also had hired some staff writers to do original series work. So they had the series premise, they owned it, they owned the pen name, and they had a team of folks that was, writing on that. And I did that for 2 years before Vella. And that was just an amazing education because I was working with a team, creating content at a really fast pace, like between 30 and 60,000 words a month at times. It was really a lot of production. And so, but for me, before the Radish experience, like I didn't think I could ever write a full novel. I never did write a novel before. I did write one. Bug was a novel before Radish, but then once I had written for Radish, and I was like, okay, now I know. I feel like I can do this, and I understand a lot more about structure and keeping kind of even just balancing like pace with the beauty of what you want to write. Like if you're only given 1,500 words for that episode to write, you don't want to spend a whole page with no action happening, because by then the reader's already like, I spent all this money on this episode, what's going on? So yeah, Radish was a great boot camp before Vella. I'm so grateful I had that experience. I knew I couldn't balance both though, continuing to write for them and then also putting some energy into my own series. So Bug took over.
I see. Well, of course, Bug took over. Look how well it's done. Now, tell us, how does that process, writing for Radish, how does that work? I mean, and I'm not talking about divulging anything contractual. I'm just talking about sort of the workflow. Just so they hire you as a staff writer, and then they say, "Okay, Callie, what do they say?"
Well, we have, it's almost like if you imagine writing for yourself, but with almost like an accountability partner. So I wrote with another writer. Most of the time I had a co-writer, but we didn't work together. We alternated. So lots of POV characters, lots of different plot lines. So I might be assigned, like say, for example, let's just call her Jane. Jane's going on this adventure. So my assignment for the week would be to write those episodes out where these certain things happen. And if there's another writer on the team, she might be writing these episodes or something else happens. And for a while, I was the only writer on my series. So then I would just get the entire assignment, which was, okay, you're going to write 15 episodes. These are high level, the things that they wanted to happen. So I had a lot of flexibility and freedom in the actual writing, but I definitely had to hit certain beats and certain things happening in certain situations,
Can you give me
which
an
is,
example of those bullet points that you'd have to hit, those beats you'd have to hit?
oh yeah, like for example, a love scene. Like we want this to have, write this sex scene. So that would be about the amount of, direction I'd be given, and I'd put it together on my own based on what the characters had been through. That's why it was nice over time when I really got to know the characters and the vision for the series. You can just hit those, like having that knowledge of like, oh, well, like 3 months ago, this character went through this. So I can bring that emotional context up to this love scene. It was a really great experience.
So I can't really conceive of this working in anything if you don't have like one person who goes and edits this and knows this, the whole story. Is that the way it is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have content teams and editors and a really great staff of support. At least, again, because my experience wasn't like a lot of the writers who bring their work to it. But yeah, so they had folks that would edit me and come up with, concepts and things like that that would be sent down to me. And a lot of that I would never be involved in. I was just at the end of the day, like, okay, so here's your assignment, write this, and then
And go
put
home.
it together. Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Well,
1,500 words.
so that's, and then did you go back in and like read your stuff and see how that was all folded together, like somebody going to a movie and seeing how it looks after the editing and whatnot?
Absolutely. And I would love, because on my series, there were reader comments that I could view, but I was viewing them as a reader as well. So I would just go in the app, read the stuff that I'd written, see what other, readers had said. And sometimes I was dying because they would just be, it was very soap opera-esque, like a lot of action adventure, some wild, fun plot line. I got to write some really fun things. And so it was always fun. Like I almost always felt the same way the readers were feeling about the content. So I loved that because I was like, yes, they're getting it or they're feeling it.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Like being right there in the pool next to them. Did you see that? No. Well, that's
Yes.
awesome. That's awesome. So then, fast forward, have you published anything else like a Kindle Unlimited book, for instance? Have you published anything like that?
No, I started, Bug was the first thing that I ever finished and wrote that was full length. I'd written a few short pieces before, but Bug was the first big thing. I wrote that as a novel initially. And then when Vella came around, I decided, because I had, this is kind of getting off your question. I'm sorry, Azrael, but when I had first written, when I first wrote Bug, I wrote it as a novel, and it just had 2 points of view, and I got some really great rejections from agents saying, haunting world building. This is really memorable, but it doesn't feel finished. Doesn't feel like it's right there yet. And I agreed. I mean, it certainly wasn't. So when Vella came around, I rewrote it and really got to dive into the bigger cast. So every character at some point does get a point of view scene. But it's really more, it's not so deep in their head that I think it's confusing. It's more like, who our anchor is for this episode, which you can't do as easily. I didn't think I could do as easily with a book. So I have spent the last year just really writing Bug on a pretty aggressive schedule. But just before Vella launched, I was working on a fantasy romance concept. And so I just finished it. So I've had that book finished, and I'll do something with it this year. I don't know what. I was thinking it might be a great fit for Vella, but it's only single POV. You just follow the female main character. And there's, to me, like, I feel like the series structure I have with Bug has worked so much. I'm kind of afraid to try something super different, especially something that really feels like a novel on Vella. So we'll see. Anything could happen at any time. I'm open to everything. But right now, I'm just glad I finished like that first draft of this fantasy romance. So right now, that's all I have, though. Bug is my whole portfolio of published writing right now.
Well, it's certainly a good one for that. I mean, you've got 6,400-ish reads. I don't have that collectively in 6 of them that I'm doing. So, no, I mean, I think that's absolutely magnificent success. And yeah. but I'm interested to see what you come out with a fantasy romance. I think you would do real well at that, most likely.
Thank you.
Of course, I
Thank
think you would do real well at anything you wrote, because this is just so smooth. It's so smoothly written, and it's just yeah, like I said, these ain't your mother's zombie stories. This is something different. It's something different. It's something fresh, and it's a real surprise. It was to me, for sure, to get into a zombie story when I thought, no, I'm done. No, this is enough. Yeah, yeah. My ex-husband was into zombie stories, and oh, he was relentless with them. So yeah, I thought I got a belly full, but I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm ready for some more. So yes, I can read some more Callie Chase. Thank you very much. And you've watched a few of these interviews, these Lawless interviews, I take it.
Yes. Oh yes, I sure have.
So then you know that I also ask, do you read Vella's?
I do.
Chase?
I do. Yes, yes. I've actually read, I was reading a lot when it first launched. I think March and April, my kind of crazy months, I slowed down a little bit, but I try to read and have a sense of a lot of what's going on in the different genres on there. Just seeing what people are doing in terms of fantasy and things that I really enjoy reading. And there's so much talent on the platform. I'm a little behind where I was, probably the first 6 months it was out, where I was like reading every day, obsessively, like trying to get to as many of those first 3 as I could. But I still do read. I follow a bunch of stories and keep up with where they're at. And yeah, I have a couple of favorites for sure.
Well, what I really wish I had was one of those old-fashioned turbans with a jewel in the middle of it, because I'd go, I'm getting a name. I'm getting a name. It's Miles. John or Johnny? Yeah, she told me she's a big fan of Johnny Miles.
Yes. But no, you deserve all the credit. You deserve all the credit for being you are definitely the good witch.
So Johnny Miles, and he writes something that, well, we were talking about when you mentioned him before, that he had some unfortunate a dust up with his series when he first put it out, something to do with the name or the name of an episode or something. So
yeah.
And then so they kind of hamstrung him for a while, but he's back on now, right?
He is. So the first series is still up, but then it kind of has a stopping point, and he's got a second series he's just such a brilliant writer. It's Sweet Lost Dangerous Males is the first one, and then Rough Trade is the second. And Johnny's characters, he's very brilliant, and I just love getting lost in his world, and his characters are so complicated and gritty and beautiful. So it's been a joy to like discover writing like that,
So it's like a literary serial.
It is, but it's not hard to read. I think literary, sometimes we get that connotation that it's like highfalutin or high. It's not. It's prosaic. It's so pretty. I enjoy the words as much as I do the characters in the story. He's really great.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good recommendation. I've not run across him. We got to get him into Vella. We got to get him on here. We got to talk to this guy. And then I believe that you told me a second one, and that was Kelsey Josephson.
Yes. Yeah.
Kelsey's
got a really cool, it's a fairy tale retelling, but with like a steampunk bent to it. So it's, I always screw up the title in my own head when I'm looking for it. It's Forsaken Beauty in the Etherbeast, but I always want to put Forsaken at the end, but it's because I'm thinking Beauty in the Etherbeast, but it's Forsaken Beauty in the Etherbeast. Yep. And it's so lovely. I love it. Kelsey's such a good writer.
Well, as we always do with the Lawless interviews, we will make sure and put your shout outs in the description so that folks can take a look at those as well, because you probably have great taste in what you read. I'll be checking them out for that reason as well. So there's another question I always ask, and it is, what, if anything, would you do to improve Vella if you had the behind the scenes keys to make any decision you wanted?
I know. Well, I love this question, even though I hope I don't sound ungrateful, because I've been so delighted and wowed by my experience on the platform. So I'm very grateful, not a gripe, but I do think if we're talking about what we would change, I do think the crown system is kind of a nightmare for readers as much as it is authors. And I think I understand the process and why it is the way it is at the moment, but it's so many steps for the readers. And we joked earlier that I don't think my dad has read a single episode of Bug. He can't figure out how to even, I mean, he has an iPad, he has an iPhone, he can't figure it out, let alone getting to the point where the man can crown something. And so I think even my friends who are readers and are avid KU readers, it's so many steps that I feel like it's harder than it needs to be for readers to just find, read, and give some kind of clue that they like it. And that crown system, which ties so closely to the leaderboard, isn't necessarily the end all be all of what great writing and highly read stories are on the platform. So yeah, that would be my first suggestion: is leaderboard, crown, making it a lot simpler for readers to use.
Right. The whole weekly thing, and because it's like when you finally get them to do it, if you finally get that most reticent person, which for me, it's my sister, it's just too hard. And then you tell them, hey, you got to do this again next week.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing that. Okay. All right. You're such a good sister.
I know.
So good. So yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. And I don't know what to do. This is like many of the problems of the world. I just want it to be fixed. I want what I want. I'm not sure what that is. I can't really articulate it, but you go ahead and give it to me.
That should be the input, yes, for Vella.
Yes, exactly. We don't know what we want. We know what we want when we see it. So just keep giving us good stuff and we'll see what it is that we want then. So, but I think that you even said one more thing before, in the ghost interview, in the interview which shall not be named or talked about or anything. You said one more thing and it was good.
Oh, yes. The token thing, the tokens. I feel like it all feeds into that, making it as easy for the reader as possible to want to keep coming back. And I think the one good thing, so I will just go back on my crown thing, the fact that it resets weekly keeps us motivated, like to release every week. And I get that. It's a psychological process. It's great. But the token system, I think, is so confusing for people and they feel like they're getting ripped off because it's not as transparent. I would almost rather see just a per episode price that's clear, because I feel like if people thought they were spending 27 cents instead of 27 tokens, they could do that math themselves and they wouldn't feel like, nope, I'm not doing that. It's, they're ripping me off. I see so many comments, even you've probably seen them, Azrael, on the Amazon ads that they run for Vella. People, they just comment, nope, too. So I think kind of dealing with that so that people don't feel like it's just a money grab, when really it's a very cost-effective way to produce very long and big stories. Yeah, that would be I have no solution. So again, I'm like the talking head. I can't help. The token thing and people's transparency around pricing, I think, would be great to ease that reader experience.
Well, I haven't messed around with Radish much. How does Radish handle that? They have some kind of coins, don't they?
They do, but I think because that's the only way you can pay for Radish content, no one has anything to compare it to. Whereas Amazon readers, they're thinking, and me too, I'm a KU reader, subscriber. So when I go on my Kindle app and I have to fight it to just find Vella, to search for them, it's all probably still early days, a little more cumbersome than I would like it to be. But
yeah,
it's where we are today.
It's where we are today. And so last question, second time around. What would you, Callie, like to say to the folks? And there's probably going to be a bunch of them clicking on the links to go and have a read with Bug. And what would you say to them?
Well, I would say, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much, because I really put so much of my own like lived experience and life, like living in LA, trying to make Bug really interesting and different, not just your, traditional sort of zombie, what you might expect. But thank you, because
Very interesting. It's not like your traditional zombie thing.
Thank you, Azrael. But that's what I would say is really thank you, because the people who have given me such good feedback, like I hate zombies, or I didn't think I would read zombies, and this is really interesting. I appreciate that. So give the first 3 episodes a try, and if those zombies don't interest you, totally get it. But I really appreciate people giving it a shot.
I'm already hooked. Okay. And I'm only a couple of episodes in and I'm already hooked. So I know, and I, like I say, I was burnt out on the whole trope, but this is new life and I think it's great. And yeah, and especially after the pandemic, it could have been a zombie pandemic. We don't know that yet.
Yeah,
we don't know that yet, right?
Anything could happen. It's true.
So, get your Kindle Vella, however you prefer to read it, get that sucker out and take a look at Bug by Callie Chase. You'll be happy you did that. And then you come back and tell me how much you like that. So Callie, thank you again for taking all this time, double and more what you guys have seen, coming out here so you could talk to me, little old me at Hellavella. But I know that everybody is going to be so excited to see your interview. I know that people were pretty excited when I posted up I was going to talk to you. So anyway, thank you again.
Thank you. I love the group.
Bye.
Bye.